Hi everyone, Naka Onolafor here to make the invisible visible. And I have a special guest who is my mom. And we are the co authors of My Brother Adam, A Journey with Schizophrenia. It is a children's book that we published back in, I want to say it was 2013. And my mom is actually here to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to us, which has to do with depression, but also mental illness in general. And I'm going to go ahead and have her introduce herself briefly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Onelafor, and I'm here to answer some questions that NECA has to ask me about depression. The reason why is because my son, he took his life to suicide, and that was back in 2009. And, I went through a really bad depression for about 3 years. So I'm here to do this interview to help other people that are depressed.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. And well, I'm just going to jump right in. So, on this channel, one of the things I want to do is highlight different topics that a lot of Black people or topics that a lot of Black women don't talk about often. And I know one of those topics is depression. Black people don't talk a lot about depression, and we definitely don't talk a lot about mental illness and probably mental health. So, one of the questions I have for you is if you can talk to our viewers a little bit about some of the things that you think people don't talk about often or enough as it relates to depression and mental illness in general. So,
Okay. Okay. One of the things that people don't talk about is who is affected by depression. And depression is worldwide and it's all walks of life. So it's all different ages, as young as 10 years old. And it's rich people, it's poor people, teenagers, professionals, celebrities. And another thing is that a lot of times, people they idolize like professional people or celebrities. People that like make millions of dollars. Let's say, a football player or an actress or somebody making $1 million. People will say, well, how can that person be depressed? And not realizing that depression is worldwide and it doesn't matter how much money you make or your profession. Anyone can become depressed, and even children can become depressed.
all right. So, another thing I know that a lot of people don't know a lot about is the way children deal with depression, or even if children can become depressed. That's definitely maybe something that is a little bit newer for a lot of people. They don't have a lot of experience with how to talk to kids about mental illness and just mental health in general. So if you can actually talk to our viewers a little bit about what would you say about children and their struggles, if any, with depression.
Okay. Okay. What a lot of people don't know is that children in depression, children as young as 10 years old now are depressed. And they seem to think that it's because of the internet. A lot of children are, getting on the internet. When I was coming up, there was no internet. When I was 10 years old, we were still playing with toys. And so now, kids are growing up so fast and they're maturing so fast. And a lot of times it's their environment. It could be like living with a alcoholic parent, living with an abusive parent, living with a drug addict parent. So all of that can affect children and teenagers as well. And sometimes when children are at school, and sometimes if they're acting out um, or they're being teased, sometimes it's because they have a mental illness, and society doesn't teach at the schools about mental illness. They don't. They need to have a course where they talk in depth about all the different mental illnesses that's out there. So people can recognize, mental illness, and they can recognize depression, they can recognize bipolar, they can recognize schizophrenia. But right now, so many people, they don't even know. Like if you ask somebody, what is schizophrenia, they couldn't even tell you what it is. Or what is bipolar, they couldn't tell you what that is. So I just think that, you know, for children that are depressed, we really need to take our time with them. We need to listen to them. And we need to just recognize that depression affects all walks of life. It doesn't matter how young you are, it doesn't matter how old you are. I know we're talking about children, but they say that even people that live to be in their 80s and 90s are depressed. So that's really, something that, we have to take serious, and we have to um, just really try to educate ourselves just the best that we can, because our children are suffering. A lot of our children, they don't have the love like, the old school parents, like the way my grandmother raised me and my mother raised me. It was nothing but love in the home. You know, and but now, you see a lot of young parents cursing their children out. I was in the store one day and I saw this lady just cursing her son out, and the first thing I thought about was how that was going to affect him when he gets grown, because it will affect him. There's no love there. There's just, everything that he does wrong. She was pointing it out, everything that he did wrong. So our children, a lot of our children are really suffering today because they don't have the love, that the old school parents gave us when we were coming up. So we just want to make sure that, we listen to our children, and we understand our children, and just love on our children as much as we can, so we can just help to eliminate this depression that's going on between these young children.
All right. So I know one of the things, Mom, that we've done a great job of is helping to eliminate the stigma of mental illness. This is why we wrote our book, My Brother Adam. But for a lot of people who are not authors and they don't have a book, they may be wondering what can they do to help eliminate the stigma of mental illness. They might be wondering, how they can get involved, and even if it's something very small that they can do, how can they contribute to make sure that they are contributing to the solution and not the problem of this of mental illness having a stigma. So,
Yes, well, the way that you can help is you can educate yourself. You can go online and you can look up all of the mental illnesses that's out there. There's so many, there's schizophrenia, there's bipolar, depression, there's just so many, OCD, PTSD. There's so many different mental illnesses. And if you take the initiative to just go online and learn about it, read about it, study it. And then that way you'll be able to recognize mental illness in other people. A lot of times, we don't recognize mental illness in other people. We just think that they're crazy, or we call them crazy. When I was coming up, that's what they used to call them. They used to say, oh, he must be crazy. He's doing this or he's not doing that. But when I was coming up, no one talked about mental illness. So we really didn't even know that mental illness existed because nobody talked about it. And so, but we do know that right now, that in the body there's lots of organs. There's your heart, there's your liver, there's your kidneys, your lungs. All those are organs, and the brain. And all of those organs can become sick. And so when our heart is sick, they call it heart disease. When our lungs, something gets wrong with our lungs, they call it lung cancer. When something is wrong with our kidneys, they call it kidney disease. And when something gets wrong with our brain, they call it mental illness. Mental means mind, and illness means sick. So mind sick, and there's nothing wrong with having a mental illness. There's nothing funny about it. People shouldn't be making jokes about it because it's a common illness and it's worldwide. And if we all educate ourselves on it, it'll be a much better world because we can recognize it in people, we can recognize it in our relatives, we can recognize it in our coworkers. So we can just recognize it in so many different people. And so that's the reason why I wanted to help my daughter Naka do this interview because we want to educate people about depression and mental illness.
All right. Well, that was so good, Mom. Thank you so much for sharing all of those helpful tips and just also sharing your own personal experience and your journey with depression and just, mental illness in general. And you all know, some of you know that my father had schizophrenia. My brother also had schizophrenia. And so this is something we're very passionate about. And I was very excited to share my mom with you for this interview. And continue to stay tuned. There's going to be more interviews on this channel, but thanks so much for watching and stay tuned for more. Bye.
Bye.